what I think often happens is we have these, again, with these massive numbers of like, you have one CAC and you have one LTV. I don't think that's real. I think what's
Right.
real is there's actually probably a CAC and an LTV based on their demo, their persona, their likelihood to stay, their likelihood to refer a customer. Like, for example, at one of the other companies we worked at called Open Care, we were seeing that like if someone came in on Facebook, they were 3 times more likely to refer a friend. Well, that means that somebody coming in through Facebook is actually worth a lot more to me than somebody that was coming in through another channel that does no referrals. And so I had to start thinking about our Facebook efforts as a relationship to how do I actually drive more referrals. So if Facebook, let's say, had a ROAS of 1, it was break even on its own. But if I started to include the impact it has on referral, that ROAS goes from 1 to like 3. And
Right.
so, for us, it was, understanding channel correlation also has an impact on LTV because you start to see, are they actually influencing other channels' growth because the users coming from here are better quality, they're talking more socially, they're posting on their organic social on their own platforms. And so I think what happens is like teams need to push harder on what is the actual quality of the people coming from your channel, and how do you either fight for, a bit more room on CAC, because you could say like our max is $100, but we think if we add an additional $10, the unlock of customers coming from 100 to 110 are valuable. Like we think that like by changing that, we like their LTV is so much stronger than other channels that we're actually hindering growth because we're setting a cap at 100 across all of our channels. And so I think that's where LTV comes into play. Like another example is a company I worked for in New York. We had this SaaS product and we offered it to 3 different personas. We had pro photographers, businesses, and personal. And then we had monthly plans and annual plans. When I started, we had one CAC goal based on the LTV, and it was all blended.
Yeah.
By the time I left, we had a CAC goal by persona, by monthly or annual, and by channel. And with that, we were able to really understand and drive our costs lower, but also focus on those high value customers. Because what we were doing is we were actually underspending on businesses. We were saying, oh, we're only willing to, again, $100. We're only willing to spend $100 to acquire a business.
Sure.
But what we realized was when we started looking at the LTV, they were like 4 times more valuable than the personal, where we were spending the same amount of money to acquire personal that we were for business. And so once we understood those dynamics of like a business user's LTV was significantly higher, we're willing to spend a bit more on the CAC side because we can drive growth and it's actually more profitable. And so I think my overarching thought as a marketer or growth person, whatever you want to call me, is you need to dig deeper. Like growth comes from granularity. It does not come from blended numbers and one KPI. And so, at the start of the conversation, you said, why revenue? It's like, well, everyone understands revenue. But in order to really talk about revenue that matters, it's profitable revenue. And that's going to come from granularity. You need to dive deep. Like the more you move away from blended numbers, the more opportunity you're going to see. And it's painful at the start. It's painful because you're like, shit, we've wasted a lot of money. Like I've been at companies where I've come in and 10% of their spend is profitable, and they've burned through $14 million of their seed round on unprofitable spend. And then they're like, well, what do? We only have a few million left of runway. How do we solve this? And it's like, okay, well, you have an email list of 100,000 that are not active. We can figure out how to activate them. We can see